Your health, to a great extent, depends on you. So our effort is to empower, educate, and engage people themselves so that they're healthy.
Welcome to PSS BizVerse, where we explore ideas, leadership, and lived experiences that shape not just successful businesses, but meaningful lives. Today's conversation goes well beyond conventional definitions of health. Our guest today is Dr. Arun Garg, a physician, a health system leader, and the recipient of Fraser Health Lifetime Achievement Award. For over 4 decades, Dr. Garg has helped shape British Columbia's healthcare system, led at the highest levels of organized medicine in Canada, and pioneered culturally responsive health initiatives. What makes this conversation especially relevant for our audience of entrepreneurs and leaders is the deeper evolution of his work. His shift from exclusively allopathic framework to a holistic understanding of health, where mental well-being precedes physical health, where illness may arise from unresolved mental states, and where mental vibrations and our thoughts, our intentions, and our awareness directly influence how the body responds. These ideas are explored in his book, Gita and Health, and through his institution-building work at the Center for Inner Sciences, including the upcoming global convention, Sinei 2026. Dr. Garg, we consider ourselves very fortunate to have you on the show. Welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to have this conversation with you and the listeners.
Thank you, Dr. Garg. For our listeners, can you please tell us something about your early years?
Well, I was born in India, and most of my early training was there, and left India for Canada in 1965, and rest of my life has been in Canada. So in a way, my Jan Bhumi is India, my Karam Bhumi is Canada. In early stage of my life, I was unfortunate. My father was killed when I was 5 years old, so I was raised by a single mom, and that has a big impact on you. So my being is greatly influenced by her values and her teachings, and it's in a way shaped my life. And here I am after those many years, just recently celebrated my 80th birthday. So we have come long ways.
My next question, Dr. Garg, is that you founded the South Asian Health Institute within the Fraser Health.
Yeah.
And there was a specific phrase you had coined, cultural precision. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So with my background being a scientist, PhD, and then followed with an MD, and then fellowship in Royal College, and 40 years of experience. So all my life, professional life, I was what we call biochemical precision. And that is the understanding of human body through the lens of science and biochemistry as it applies to the individual. And that is a very big thing. You'll hear the word precision medicine. So using that chorality, I felt that individual consists of not only the physical body or the science, but who they are, what they are, and the culture they represent. And that is critical for understanding a good health. So we then coined the term cultural precision to imply and to talk about the role of culture in health. And that's what cultural precision is. It is specific to the individual, and you have to understand the individual. You have to understand where they're coming from, and then make sure that it's individualized to that person. And that's why cultural precision.
It is a very new concept. Otherwise, doctors talk about putting people in compartments A, B, A, B, O, whatever is your blood group and whatever is your other types. But cultural precision is really an innovative concept.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In last few years, 10, 20 years, since DNA and nucleic acids have become mutation, the precision medicine is becoming mainstream. But cultural precision is even going beyond that, and it is very unique.
Thank you, Dr. Garg. Dr. Garg, till now we have a Western system of medicine where there is intervention, where medicine is what is done to you, vaccination, surgery, medications. What made you gravitate towards holistic healing system? What was your personal transformation journey like?
Yeah. Again, based on my 40 years of experience and using science, obviously it makes a lot of sense to have what I call external passive interventions. And what we mean by that is that whole Western medicine is based on applying the principles of science which have been developed over years on a very reductive research clinical trial basis to that person. And that is person themselves have no say or control in that therapeutic modality. You get a chest pain, you go to emergency, doctor has to look at it, they prescribe everything. You are a innocent bystander, so to speak, and rightly so, because you don't know much about what's going on, and you're totally dependent on the expertise of someone who's providing that care. So that we external passive interventions. However, the body is more than just the physical body. Body is who you are, and in terms of yogic science, it talks about astral body. And that is inward, your self-determination that you want to be healthy, your realization who you are, and based on that, you want to be healthy. And that's where we bring the notion of this internal interventions and the concept of empowering the individual so they want to be happy. So with the understanding of mind and intellect and science. And is the fusion of the two really is what we need. And traditionally, Western medicine has only used physical body part or external interventions. And what we are saying is there is a synergy in both of them, and we should integrate them.
Wow. This is really interesting. Dr. Garg, I want you to talk about your book, because this is the first time that we have a treatise on the Gita by a medical doctor.
Yeah, well, I wish that was the case. There have been many medical people who have written, and a few have even tried go into health. But ours is quite unique that, first of all, it's not a sermon of any type. It's not proponing any particular mode or particular philosophy even. What it is that in trying to understand the cultural precision, trying to understand what makes people tick, it became very clear to me that self-realization is very culturally based. So for that, you have to understand the culture. So because of my interest in South Asian population, I said, what are those tools we have to develop? And that's where understanding of knowledge base which exists about body in Indus Valley Vedic yogic science, it was important that we start to think of writing in a language which then makes sense for people. So this book is first of many in understanding that foundation or the philosophy of cultural precision. And Bhagavad Gita combined with Patanjali Yoga really gives us a foundation of understanding of that what makes you tick, who you are, and what are the tools you need. So we needed to have a foundation. So this book represents that foundation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Garg. Now, this book can really help a lot of people. So, my next question is, where can they find this? How does one get this book?
Yeah, it's very easy. It's on Amazon. It's published by Amazon. It's on Amazon Canada, Amazon USA, and all they need to do is just Google on Amazon and put Gita and Health or my name, Garg, and it will come up. It's very reasonably priced, $9.99 Canadian, and there you go, and you can get it.
Thank you, Dr. Garg. Dr. Garg, in this book, you have talked about maintaining the balance of life using your thought. Now, when I talk about maybe a physical problem, a type 2 diabetes or hypertension, what in this book can you give me that can help somebody who has a disease that has already been diagnosed? How can that help?
Yeah, so I think the whole idea is the physical medicine, the physical body, or the Western concept of disease is unparalleled. And nowhere I have found that we could do without it. So that is a must. But now the issue is, how do you enhance? So either you're healthy, health promotion, or illness prevention, or better management of your diseases. This is where cultural precision comes. So Bhagavad Gita is a tool which allows you to understand who you are better. And with that gives you the inner power that you want to be healthy. So from a practical terms, what it means is that the lifestyle diseases are greatly influenced by four aspects of living. First and foremost is food. The role food plays. Second is emotional relationships with others. Third is charging your body through rest and sleep. And fourth, but not the least, is the movements and exercise. And those four, no prescription is given by anybody. Most of it is pharma or that external passive intervention I talked about. These four require that internal active intervention. And Bhagavad Gita combined with yogic science of Patanjali gives you the tools that you said, I want to be healthy. I want to overcome the barriers in being healthy. So when you see some jalebis around, your inner core says, no, I don't want to eat it because it has some impact on me. And that's as our interpretation in this book, relating the principles of classical, what everybody reads when they read Gita. How do you relate that now to specific how you self-control? Whether it's food, because Bhagavad Gita has beautiful description of quality of food. They describe it in three gunas, sattvic, tamasic, rajasic. And that impact what becomes to you, because if you look at food, just take use as an example because you asked for practical implication, food is nothing more than producing, giving body calories so that we could have metabolic function. So food consists of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And proportion of those and how it goes with it determines how body converts all that into useful energy. Because body doesn't care what you eat. Body just wants those basic foundational ingredients to produce energy. But it's about the combinations of those and how much you eat carbohydrates, what proportion carbohydrates, what proportion proteins, what proportion fat determine how body then stores. So practicality is that if you eat too much carbohydrates and not enough proteins, then body is deprived of certain things to convert into proper energy. If you eat 3,000 calories when your body only needs 1,500 or 1,200 calories, body has to do something. And that's what we relate in it. How do we overcome that? How do we understand that? And once you understand that, then it becomes that much easier that next time you will say, no, I don't need jalebis because it has too much simple carbohydrates. My glucose will go up. That will be converted into fat, and I'll get insulin resistance. So, in very short, what I'm really saying is that scientific evidence meets the cultural evidence for healthy living, and Gita is a very good example for people who kind of follow it. It's not as I said, cultural precision is specific to a specific person, and you have to understand what their belief system is, what their culture is, and that's what then need to be interpreted for them so that they become sure, self-reliant, self-determined to do something which is healthy.
Thank you, Dr. Garg. Dr. Garg, till now, these have been two very difficult discussions. One was pure religion, the other was pure science, and the twain shall never meet is the general perception. In your case, you have been able to have scientific testing of these things. Like before the interview, we were talking about the tests in Cleveland. I would love for you to talk about that because the audience now needs to understand that how this idea is now moving forward into scientific testing.
I think there is a huge misunderstanding and lack of awareness when people start to compartmentalize that you are this, you are this, you are this. And those compartmentalizations then leads to lack of awareness or misunderstanding or even disbeliefs or fanaticism. That's not the case. For me, scientific evidence based on study, which science is essentially organized knowledge, is based on experiments, observations, and power of understanding. So-called religion, and in this context, the philosophy, there is so much science there. So I use the word yogic science. So yogic science is very organized knowledge which talks about the big contribution of yogic science is that beside physical body, it talks about you have inner body or astral body or causal body. So physical body which you see, but the concept of energy which is produced within that physical body you don't see, prana. And with prana, mind, which is thought. And then intellect or buddhi. And those three things you don't see, but they are part of yogic science astral body. And I think what we are saying is that health depends on both of those. So when you go and you follow Western medicine, then you are getting external passive interventions. But your piece on internal active intervention is left. And that needs to be brought in to your daily life in a practical way. So then you say, I want to be healthy. I want to eat the right food. I want to get enough sleep. I want to get enough exercise. I want to have positive relationships. And that's the essence of fusion of East and West or fusion of internal and external. And that's people give name religion, so I don't even use those words. We're basically saying is the science of internal understanding of health and external manifested physical body of health.
Thank you, Dr. Garg. Dr. Garg, now today in today's society, mental health has become a priority. And we are seeing more and more instances of diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, dementia. Now, as the population is aging, these are becoming very, very prevalent. So, how do we manage this as per your book?
Yeah, so I think most of it's stages. You have to understand, and remember, these are very early days of integrative thinking, integrative medicine. Diseases like diabetes, chronic renal failure, hypertension, which are manifested, you understand the pathophysiology, is much easier to explain in those terms we talked about. When it comes to mental disorders of the brain, and even more complicated, where mind is involved, our understanding is very limited. And this is very exciting in the sense, to me, that is the future frontier. So I would say that resilience and brain coming together. For example, when I went to medical school, it was said that brain does not grow after it is born. It's fixed, and there is no change in it. There are no new pathways, what's called neuroplasticity. That's all been shown that is not true. So, point is that this is evolving science. The role of internal active interventions based on cultural precision are in infancy. So it'll be, but this is most exciting, and this is where the most progress will be made, and a lot of work is going on. In terms of chronic diseases of mind or brain, the way living a healthy life does help. First of all, it delays the onset of those. And the cognitive functions greatly helped if you are active and your brain, physical part of the thinking, is in tune with astral part of thinking, then chances of you developing memory lapses and dementias reduced. Now, one thing is, you as a humans are born and we are going to die. That is something nobody has a recipe of immortality. So diseases is not, I'm saying that if you follow this, you will not have diseases. It's just the quality of life and onset at which these diseases take place. There is, because if we were having this conversation, say, 20 years ago, the main theme would have been diabetics, because that was the most prevalent disease. It still is in certain parts of the world, coronary artery disease or heart. So this is where basic understanding of how these pathways work came out. So there is a lot more information on it. But the interaction between dementia, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinsonian, and role of mind is not as well understood. Having said that, what is yogic science? And what are the tools which allows you to overcome this self-realization? Very big part of it is based on meditation or mindfulness or calming the mind. And even in those conditions, even when you get those conditions, when mind understands and is calm, then your lifestyle or your quality of life improves. So even in those conditions, practicing some of these tools help in that way. But I think pathophysiologically, is still some ways to go.
Thank you, Dr. Garg. That was really insightful. Dr. Garg, our audience is business people, entrepreneurs, or students of entrepreneurship. So, can you give us one pearl of wisdom which we can give to our viewers, that this is something that they should start doing immediately to improve the quality of their life?
Yeah, that's a $64 million question, if not $64 billion question. There is no one magic wand, but I think not only in business, but in general life, whether you're a student, whether you are striving for something, or in your relationships, key is understanding yourself is important. And that understanding only comes from self-realization. So meditation and breathing and some of the yogic tools are very helpful, and most of it is clarity of the mind. So I think for an entrepreneur, clarity of mind, clarity of the thought, the memory plays a very huge role in their success, their relationships. So I would say that yogic science does provide that. I could best exemplify that from my own personal experience or personal what it has done for me. Um, Even quite recently, when I stopped working in my regular 45 years of work, I went into reactive grief. And that was very difficult. But to overcome that, I had to get myself through my thought process and mental meditations. No, it's okay. I'm going to overcome. And it did happen. And then after that is pure bliss. So very simply, my advice to business young people will be follow your passion, know what you want, and don't give up. And that all on laying on understand who you are.
Thank you so much, Dr. Garg. Dr. Garg, there is an initiative that is very close to your heart, which is CINS, Canada India Network Society. I would like you to talk about it to our viewers.
Well, it will be a pleasure, and we can go for hours. But in summary, um, as we already talked about, I was born in India, and I've lived all my life in Canada. And very fortunate because these are two nations which have so much in common in their value system. Once you cut through the artificial, external, passive thoughts, and you look deeper. So Canada, CINS stands for Canada India Network Society. So we formulated and we founded it as a not-for-profit society in 2010 to build links between Canada and India on health, because that's what our interest is. And interestingly, as I started to work on it, I say I don't even have to go to India to do that work because we have such a large Indian population in Canada which needs better understanding of their own health. So Canada-India Network Society truly works in both countries and have projects and capacity building for both. So Canada-India Network Society was formed in 2010 as a not-for-profit society to build links between Canada and India to build a healthy civil society. But I think in reality, it is in Canada as well as in India, but our focus is cultural precision, so we are working with South Asian population, and that's the main theme on health. And there even we are focusing, Canada Indian Network Society is focusing on the space where there is a gap and other people are not working in that area. No point of putting energy when the hundreds of people already working have more expertise. And mostly I'm talking about is that external passive intervention of science-based modern medicine. We have so much knowledge, so much resources, so much work in that area. So Canada-India Network Society focuses on the other space, which very few people are, working with people in Canada and India on how to be healthy, especially in metabolic diseases, mental diseases, through self-realization. And the term there is, we have taken the notion of integrative thinking, which is really a thinking, how you think, and you, through that thinking, you identify problems, you find solutions, and then you implement them. That's the whole package of integrative thinking. We're applying that to integrated health and integrated medicine. And the component we are working on is that cultural aspect of that. How to empower, engage, and educate people for their own health. And that's the essence of CINS. And I could, as I say, go on and on in terms of the number of projects and what we are doing.
Thank you, Dr. Garg. Dr. Garg, now I'd like to pick your brain regarding the Canadian health system. Now, in the Canadian health system, you've talked about the Pareto's principle, the 80-20. You've talked about a lot of those 5 aspects of health. Can you please tell us more about this and what you think is the problem right now with the Canadian health system?
Yeah, if I wish if I knew the answer, most probably I would be somewhere else. Right? So I think it'll be presumptuous for me to say I have the answer, but I do have insight, and that's what I would like to share. No doubt, our Canadian healthcare system and the cherished properties of these are universality, accessibility, comprehensiveness, public administration are second to none for any healthcare system. And I fully support those, and that has been the backbone of my work. But as they say, Houston, we have a problem. Charlie, we have a problem. While we have a very good system which addresses the acuteness or intervention or passive external interventions, Canadian healthcare system has basically ignored or left out that internal active interventions and engaging people in their own health. And to me, that is a very big gap. And it's okay if you're only dealing with acute care. But with aging society, the demographics, the patterns are changing, the disease prevalence is changing, and chronic conditions have become a huge part. And this is where, sooner rather than later, we need to introduce the concepts of cultural precision, cultural medicine, functional medicine, integrative medicine, and how to engage people in their own health. And that's the gap which in Canadian healthcare system. Let me just, if you will permit me, just explain a little further. If you look at Canadian healthcare system, I think of it in 5 spaces. First space is acute institutional care. In other words, hospitals and acute care when you're having a chest pain, you've broken a bone, or you have a congestive heart failure, or you have arrhythmias. They're second to none. You have diagnosed with cancer, something has to be done. Wherever you need that external passive interventions, that acute care is second to none. And I'm not for 1 minute saying that we should tinker with it. I mean, there are challenges managing it and resources, the wait list and all that, but that's one space. Second space is you're still in the community, but you're dealing with episodic acute care. So most of it provided by physicians and their offices. Third space is palliative care, like towards the end, you have diagnosed, you're managing that. Fourth space is end-of-life care and long-term care in chronic institutes. These 4 spaces, at any given time, close to 20 to 30% of the population exist. And it uses 80 to 85% of the resources. Other 70 to 80% of people are in a space what I call fifth space. And that space is where we do need to pay some attention through engaging, empowering, and educating patients. And that is minimal right now in our public Medicare. And I think there are challenges. How do you shift? How do you bring change? Make some course corrections. So we have to go very gingerly, very thoughtful, but it has to be done. And I think more and more people are realizing this. And I think we need both. It's not one or the other. It's the balance and moderation. And that's how I feel that we could bring sustainability in healthcare system.
Thank you so much, Dr. Garg. Dr. Garg, now I want you to talk about Sinei 2026 because it is very interesting and at the same time, we don't know enough about it.
Yeah.
So I want you to please enlighten our audience about Sinei 2026.
Well, we'll be delighted to, and I think right at the offset, I should say that our website, www.cins.org, has all the information. Registration is open for anybody who's interested. The Sinei is the words are Canada-India Network Initiative. So Canada-India Network Society operates through projects, but also through network and bringing people together. So since 2010, we have been organizing every 4 year a major conference, and we gave it a name Sinei, Canada-India Network Initiative. So Canada-India Network Initiative 2010, 2014, 2018, 2022, and now 2026. And during this journey, we continue to evolve, we continue to sharpen it, we continue to provide precision, so then outcome comes out of it. The whole thing always been, it's not like a regular conference, but a conference which permits you to bring people together, deliberate on ideas, take input broadly, and make recommendation, and then try to see if those recommendations can be implemented. So that's the essence of Sinei. Sinei 2026 has gone one step now, and it is the theme is South Asian Health Global Perspective through integrative thinking. So as we talked about, we want to start bringing the notion of integrative thinking into mainstream conversation. And that's what Sinei will be doing. That's the theme of it. And we're going to start on Friday, and we have fortunate to have one of the top researcher in this area from McMaster, Dr. Sonia Anand, Order of Canada winner. She has done most research in this field, and she'll be leading with her research and integrative application in chronic diseases. So that's on Friday, reception and some awards to recognize some people. Saturday morning is we define what is integrative thinking, what is integrative medicine, what are the barriers, what are the opportunities to bring inclusion of that in mainstream medicine. So that's on Saturday morning, and we are very fortunate to have some brilliant people who are working in this field. Dr. Victoria Lee, who was a former CEO of Fraser Health, has totally gone into that area and done a fair amount of work. Dr. J.S. Thakur from Postgraduate Institute of Chandigarh, he is doing work. And Dr. Nagendra, who introduced me to this whole field, Chancellor of S. Vyasa University, he cannot come physically, so he'll be doing a message, but that's the morning session. Then we're going to have a signature panel discussion of barriers and the opportunities in implementing and introducing this concept in Canadian academic health institutes. And we have an exemplary panel. And then we spend a lot of time sharing with the attendees the projects which CINS has facilitated in last 15 years, the progress we have made, the outcomes, and they're very wide. And it'll take too long for me to, it's all on our website. And then Sunday, we are bringing a very unique concept of art and healing in diseases or in health, and the role of art and artist in healing. And we'll be introducing some examples where that works. And CINS has worked in the last 10 years in trying to support some of those projects, so we'll be sharing this. And then in closing ceremonies, and that's our key part which differentiates us from other meetings, is we make recommendations. Based on that, what needs to change? And then CINS facilitate and catalyze those implementation. So it's going to be very exciting, and it's open to public, and there will be leaders in business, academia, healthcare, and high schools and educational institutes, but also public and patients. So patient perspective, there is a whole panel on it, because patients are the key. What are the barriers? A lot of learning we have in our projects is through patients. There is one session on a role of culture in post-knee surgery recovery. You went to the acute care, surgery has been done, you've done very well. Now the recovery, rehab. And you'll be surprised what a difference it makes depending on what your culture is. And we supported one of the projects, and Dr. Nitya Prakash will be sharing what their findings are. And the good thing is, a lot of those findings now have become part of the guidelines and protocols for seniors, especially how to rehabilitate after knee surgery. And outcomes are much better. So it's very practical, and it should be of interest to many people.
One more question, Dr. Garg. Who should attend this conference? Who all should be there, and what is it that they hope to carry out of it?
Yeah, in my opinion, I think everybody should attend because it has something for everybody. But it should be of real interest to leaders and policymakers and academics, but members of the general public who care about Canadian healthcare system and looking for new ideas where change could come about. Because change will only come when people themselves recognize the value in the change. So we're not advocating change for the sake of change, but the value addition. So this is what the conference is about. So I would say, however, people listening or watching this podcast, it will be of interest to anybody who cares about healthcare system, have family members or themselves who have chronic diseases or need better understanding of system, and have some ideas of how we could engage better. So all those people, and it's a very minimal registration for 3 days. We're talking about $300 for the whole 3 days, including all the meals and everything. So I think it's a pretty good value for all around. And I would say, hopefully, this kind of podcast will take the message. And thank you very much for giving us the opportunity. Thank you for taking interest. And hopefully more people will know about it than they did before.
Thank you, Dr. Garg. Thank you so very much. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
No, it's a pleasure is mine. I think there are many angles we talked about. Some of these are very clear. Some of these are not that clear. But my message is very simple. Your health, to a great extent, depends on you. There are certain things you have no control. But even there, how you react to those things, how do you manage those things makes a difference. And understanding of that is important. So our effort is to empower, educate, and engage people themselves so that they're healthy. And that's a very simple message. And that conference and our efforts are all working towards that.
Thank you, Dr. Garg. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you.
Dr. Garg, thank you for sharing not only your wisdom and experience, but a way of seeing health that is deeply relevant to our times. This conversation reminds us all that health is not a mere medical outcome. It is shaped by how we think, how we live, and how we relate ourselves to the world around us. For entrepreneurs and leaders especially, the quality of life is not a luxury. It is a fundamental requirement. For our audience, this is a conversation worth reflecting on and sharing. Thank you for joining us on PSS BizVerse, where ideas meet impact and stories shape the future. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.